Well, that clock is ticking on the Hill. Republican lawmakers say it really is up to President Obama to decide who gets paid and who doesn't.
Let's find out. Joining us live this morning to talk about just how the government shutdown may affect the nation is United States Senator John Cornyn. Senator, will there be a deal on the budget before midnight?
Well, I certainly hope so. This is an important debate, but, we got to solve the problem and move on because we have much larger looming problems like lifting the debt ceiling or the credit limit on the government's credit card, which is north of $14 trillion. And we need to do some very serious work to avert a fiscal crisis that is much bigger than just what's happening today.
Well, now that we're down to hours, Senator, what are the major sticking points?
Well, my understanding is it's still a question of what the dollar figure should be, but as you understand, this is just to keep the government funded through September the 31st, and this is work that really should have been done last year, but which was not done. So I think it's that, plus there's some issues about taxpayer funding for abortions in the District of Columbia, and I think that's about it. So I think this is something that we need to recognize that neither party controls the federal government. There's divided government, and we're going to have to do the best we can, but then move on to the even bigger fights.
Senator Reid this morning coming out blaming the Tea Party as interjecting their agenda into this process. Any truth to that at all?
Well, it's absurd. I don't think that we should be involved in name-calling as part of this. I know Chuck Schumer, the senator from New York, was overheard on a telephone call last week saying that he was going to refer to anybody who didn't agree with the president and Democrats as extreme and trying to taint the Tea Party as somehow out of the mainstream. Those sort of tactics, I think people really get tired of, and frankly, I think people look at Washington and see how dysfunctional it is and say, a pox on both your houses.
I think a lot of folks do look to that, Senator. They say, gosh, you've been 4 months into this session. What have you accomplished so far, and why so long to pass a budget?
Well, like I said, Lana, this is something that should have been done last year. This is actually something that was put off until the lame duck session of the Congress and after the election. Then there was a $1 trillion omnibus appropriation proposed with thousands of earmarks in it. We stopped that because we felt like we'd received a mandate in the election to stop wasteful Washington spending. And that's why we're having these battles and these cuts, which are not insignificant in funding, trying to bring us back ultimately to 2008 levels rather than the bloated levels of 2011.
Well, Senator, the phrase shut down the federal government sounds scary, but in fact, will this affect me as a taxpayer or even as a Texan?
Well, it will if you're a consumer of federal government services and, like going to federal parks, the LBJ Library in Austin and things like that. It probably will not have much of an impact on regular Texans. 800,000 federal workers could well be disrupted for a day or two or however long this takes, but others will be deemed essential to the functioning of the government, like the U.S. military, which, by the way, if the president vetoes the bill passed by the House yesterday, or if Senator Reid fails to take that up today in the Senate, it's going to disrupt paychecks to our troops, our men and women in uniform and their families, which, as Secretary Gates said, many of them live paycheck to paycheck. That is something that just should not happen.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners, in fact, are saying, I don't care if you shut down or not, just keep those soldiers paid. So that is a critical component to how people feel.
Absolutely.
Now, also, if this comes and goes, basically you have the weekend to work it through, do you not? Because a lot of these, we won't feel a lot of this because of the fact that we have a weekend ahead.
I think that's right. It should be minimized, and my hope is that unlike 1995, where it extended on for several weeks, this can be handled in a short order. The irony of this is that even if there is a shutdown, we still have to pass some sort of appropriation bill to get us through September the 31st, so a shutdown really doesn't solve anything. It just puts off the inevitable.
What does your political gut tell you, Senator?
Well, I think, I'm feeling a little bit better that there will be a resolution, but, it's just speculation at this point.
Thank you so much for talking with us. Appreciate all the information. U.S. Senator John Cornyn there. Keep it tuned right here to KTRH. We'll continue to follow the story.